Hey everyone, welcome back. I want to start today by planting an image in your head. It's a scenario I guarantee everyone listening has experienced.
No.
At least once. You're driving through the neighborhood, maybe it's your own, maybe not, and you see this stark contrast. You pass one house, and the lawn is just, I mean, immaculate.
Oh, yeah. The kind that looks like a golf course.
Exactly. Golf course green, the hedges are trimmed perfectly, the flowers are all coordinated. It's a showpiece.
It's the kind of house that makes you, feel a little bad about your own yard.
It really does. It just radiates care. But then you look right next door.
And it's a disaster
A
zone.
total disaster. We're talking knee-high weeds, peeling paint, maybe a rusted-out car on
See the
blocks.
gutters hanging off by one nail?
Yes. It looks like a completely different planet, but it's 10 feet away. Same soil, same climate. And the question is just, why? Why? The massive, visible gap in care.
It's a great question, and I think our first instinct is to answer it with, personality judgments.
Right. You see the messy yard and think, well, that person is just lazy. Or you see the perfect yard, go, okay, that person's obsessive.
Or, to bring it to a smaller scale, think about a rental car.
Oh, this is a good one.
Be honest. Why do you treat a rental car differently than your own car?
You just do. You fly over speed bumps in a rental, but you baby your own car like it's made of glass.
And it looks like a character flaw, right? You assume the rental car driver is just reckless or the neighbor is a slob. But what if I told you personality has almost nothing to do with it?
That's a bold claim. You're saying if we swap the people, their behavior would change.
I'm saying if you put that reckless driver in their own brand new car, or the lazy neighbor in a house they actually own, their behavior would likely flip overnight. It's not about who they are, it's about the structure they're in. Specifically, the invisible architecture of ownership.
And that is exactly what we are digging into today. We are doing a deep dive into the incentives of ownership and the wealth of nations. We've got a fascinating stack of sources here, articles, some economic theory, covering everything from laundry all the way to the tragedy of the commons.
And our mission here is really to uncover those invisible forces you mentioned. We want to see how the simple idea of "this is mine" just completely rewires the human brain, how it changes the way we plan for the future, and ultimately how that scales up to determine the prosperity of entire civilizations.
It sounds huge, and it is, but we're going to start with something incredibly mundane. We are starting with a washing machine filter.
Right. This comes from a great little anecdote in our source material. It's about a character named Annie, and it's a perfect low-stakes way to understand this psychology.
So Annie's looking back on her life, and she admits, and I feel this deep in my soul, that for years she lived in a rented apartment. And in all that time, she never, not once, cleaned the lint filter in the washing machine.
Which, just for the record, is terrible for the machine.
Oh, it's a disaster. It's a fire hazard, clothes smell weird, the machine works twice as hard. But she didn't do it.
I think a lot of people listening are probably nodding along right now. When you're renting, maintenance feels like optional extra credit.
Exactly.
Huh.
But then the story continues. Annie moves. She buys her own place, signs the mortgage, gets the keys, the deed is in her name. And suddenly, she's on her knees with a flashlight, scrubbing that filter every 3 months, like clockwork.
So did Annie undergo some kind of spiritual transformation? Did she suddenly become a cleaner person?
No, of course not. She's the exact same person, same personality.
But her incentives shifted 180 degrees. And this gets at the fundamental theory of property rights. The theory says that when a resource belongs to a specific person, when they're what economists call the residual claimant, they have a direct incentive to care for it.
Okay, residual claimant. Let's unpack that. It sounds a bit academic.
It sounds fancy, but it just means you're the one left holding the bag. You get the profit or benefit, but you also eat the cost. In the source material, one of the characters calls this the logic of the owner.
So let's apply that logic to the washing machine. When Annie was renting, if that machine broke because the filter was clogged,
Yeah.
what was the real consequence for her?
Mostly it was just an inconvenience.
Sure.
She'd have to call the landlord, maybe wait a few days for a repair guy, go to a laundromat once. It's annoying, sure.
But financially.
Financially, it hits her wallet for exactly $0. The landlord pays for the new machine.
So the cost of her negligence is externalized. It's someone else's problem.
Precisely. She enjoys the machine, but she doesn't bear the risk of it breaking. But now that she owns the apartment, the math completely changes.
Right. If she neglects that filter now and the motor burns out, she's the one who has to go drop $800 on a new one. That's a direct financial loss.
A capital loss. And that hurts. Humans are wired to avoid loss. And because it hurts, she changes her behavior. Ownership aligns her personal self-interest, saving her own money, with a broader public benefit, which is having well-maintained stuff that lasts longer.
It's amazing. That simple switch explains the rental car thing perfectly. If I hit a pothole and it hurts, I might say, oops. But if I hit that same pothole in my own car, I physically feel it. I'm immediately worried about the alignment, the tires, the resale value.
You are instantly projecting the future cost.
Yeah.
And that is the key insight here. Ownership forces you to think about the future. Renting, or a lack of ownership, encourages you to live only in the present.
That makes so much sense. So we've established that ownership drives care, but this brings us to the flip side. If ownership creates care, what happens when nobody owns something?
Yes. Now we're stepping into one of the most famous concepts in all of economics. We are talking about the tragedy of the commons.
It sounds so dramatic, like a Shakespeare play.
It does, but in our source material, it's about moldy cheese.
The office refrigerator.
The office refrigerator, the classic example. The place where Tupperware goes to die.
Why is the break room fridge almost always a biohazard?
Right.
You open it, and there's yogurt from 2018, some leaking sludge.
A smell that just hits you in the face. And the thing is, the people using this fridge are professionals. They're responsible adults. Their kitchens at home are probably sparkling. So why do they turn into slobs at work?
It goes right back to the incentive structure, doesn't it?
It does. The office fridge is a common resource. It belongs to everyone, which in economic terms means it belongs to no one.
Okay, so play out the thought process. I walk in, I spill a little soup on the shelf, I have a choice.
Right. Option A, you stop, find paper towels, wipe it up. That costs you time and effort. It's a personal cost.
And option B, I just close the door and walk away.
Exactly. Now, if you clean it, you incur the whole cost, but the benefit, a clean fridge, is shared by 50 other people. You don't get the full value of your work.
But if I just leave it,
The cost of that mess, the stickiness, the smell, is spread out over everyone. It's a diffuse cost. So for you individually, the rational choice is to just walk away.
and since everyone makes that same rational choice, the fridge becomes a disaster.
The maxim from our source material sums it up perfectly. When everyone is responsible, no one is responsible. It's not that your coworkers are evil. It's that the system discourages care.
Okay, so we've covered the laundry room and the break room. We've seen how ownership drives maintenance and how shared ownership leads to neglect. But I want to zoom out now, way out.
It's time to go from moldy cheese to global economics.
Yes, can this same dynamic really explain why some countries are rich and others are poor?
It feels like a massive leap, I know. But the logic holds up surprisingly well. The source material asks us to just look at the skylines of the world. Why do some countries have cities filled with gleaming skyscrapers and complex infrastructure, while other countries, sometimes right next door, with similar resources, are just filled with temporary shacks?
I think the knee-jerk reaction is to blame culture, or to think, oh, maybe people there just don't work as hard.
Which is a dangerous and, frankly, incorrect assumption. Our source makes it very clear it is not about laziness. People in poor nations often work harder and longer hours than anyone in the developed world. It's not about capability. It's about laws, specifically the security of property rights.
Let's break down the time horizon argument, because I think this is the key.
It is the absolute core of it. Think about what investment is. It's giving up something today, money, labor, in exchange for getting more back in the future.
Delayed gratification.
Right. But that only makes sense if you are sure that tomorrow will actually arrive, and this is the crucial part, that you will still own the fruits of your labor when it does.
The notes use a great example of a farmer. Let's walk through that.
Sure. Imagine you're a farmer in a country with a very unstable government. Weak laws. You have a plot of land, but you don't really have a title deed. A local warlord or a corrupt official could come and kick you off that land at any moment.
That's a terrifying way to live. No security at all.
So you have a choice. You can plant a crop like lettuce. Lettuce grows in a few weeks. You harvest it quickly, sell it, hide the cash.
Okay.
Or you can plant an orchard of fruit trees.
Which take years to grow.
Years. You have to water them, prune them, care for them, all without getting a single apple for maybe 5 years. But once they start producing, they'll make you much, much richer than the lettuce ever could. They're a long-term asset.
But if I plant those trees, I have to wait 5 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, there's a really high chance someone just steals my land.
Exactly. The warlord sees you planting trees and thinks, great, in 5 years, I'll take that land. So are you going to plant the trees?
No way. Why would I do all that work just to have it stolen? I'd plant the lettuce. Grab what I can, right now.
Precisely. You shorten your time horizon. You stop planning for the future because the future is insecure. And this applies to construction, too.
The skyscraper versus shack idea.
Yes. A skyscraper is the ultimate fruit tree. It takes years to plan, years to build, decades to pay off. People only build for the ages when they are confident that the property will remain theirs for 50 or 100 years.
So if you're in a country where property rights are weak, where the government can just seize your land.
You build a shack. You build something temporary,
Yeah.
something that, if it gets taken, you haven't lost a lifetime of capital. You build with scrap metal, not because you don't know how to use concrete, but because concrete is a bad investment in an unstable world.
That's profound. It's like the skyline of a city is a physical map of its legal system.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Strong property rights are the foundation. They allow for long-term planning, and long-term planning is what generates wealth.
So we've covered physical things, washing machines, fridges, land, buildings. But we live in the 21st century. The most valuable things in our economy aren't always physical. They're ideas, code, music.
And this is where the logic of ownership gets a little trickier. We have to talk about intellectual property, patents, copyrights.
This feels different. Unlike a sandwich, if I eat your sandwich, it's gone. But if I use your idea, you still have the idea. I haven't taken it from you.
True. And the source material has this great dialogue about it. The character Annie takes a position that I think a lot of people feel. She asks, shouldn't ideas be free? Shouldn't information belong to everyone?
It sounds noble, right?
Yeah.
Why should one company own the rights to a life-saving drug? Why shouldn't a song be free for everyone?
It feels like gatekeeping. But then the other character, Sean, he counters with the economic reality. He focuses on the incentive to create. His argument is, if everyone can copy a book for free, the author can't earn a living to write the next book.
So it's not about protecting the idea that already exists. It's about making sure future ideas get created.
Exactly. Look at the pharmaceutical example from the notes. Developing a new drug can cost billions of dollars. You have to pay scientists, run clinical trials. It takes years, and there's a huge risk of failure.
That's the sunk cost. You spend it all before you sell a single pill.
Right. Now imagine a world with no patents. You spend that $1 billion. You invent the pill. The moment you release it, a competitor just copies it. And since they didn't spend the $1 billion on research, they can sell it for pennies.
And you, the inventor, you go bankrupt.
Yeah.
You never make back your investment.
And here's the kicker. If you know that's going to happen, do you spend the $1 billion in the first place?
No. You'd be the farmer refusing to plant the tree all over again.
Exactly. And the result is the cure for cancer never gets invented. We all lose.
So the patent is a compromise.
Yes, it's a temporary monopoly. The state says, okay, you invented this. For the next 20 years, only you get to sell it. You get to charge a higher price to recoup your investment. That's your reward.
It turns an idea into an asset, a thought into property.
And once it's property, you have the incentive to develop it. The source argues that without these protections, we wouldn't have mRNA vaccines or the software running our phones. Those things require massive investment that only happens when property rights are secure.
It's a mechanism to reward genius for taking a risk.
Correct. It aligns the incentives.
It is fascinating how it all ties back to that same core psychological trigger. Whether it's cleaning a filter, building a skyscraper, or developing a vaccine, the behavior is driven by the assurance that this is mine and my effort will benefit me.
And the moment that's missing, like with the office fridge, the behavior shifts instantly to get what I can now and don't worry about tomorrow.
So we've gone from the laundry room to the patent office. Let's just recap this journey.
Sure. We started with maintenance. Ownership creates an incentive to preserve your capital. That's Annie and the filter. The logic of the owner.
Then we looked at the inverse, the tragedy of the commons. When everyone owns something, nobody owns it, and you get moldy cheese.
Then we scaled that up. We learned that the reason some nations have skyscrapers and others have shacks isn't culture. It's the time horizon, which is set by property laws.
And finally, we saw how this extends to ideas. Intellectual property creates a fence that gives inventors the safety to take the risks that drive human progress.
It really changes how you look at the world. You stop seeing just stuff, and you start seeing the invisible web of incentives holding it all together.
It does. It makes you realize that prosperity isn't an accident. It's the result of designing the right systems that work with human nature, not against it.
That's the key. You can't change human nature, but you can align looking out for ourselves with creating value for the world.
Now, before we let you go, we want to leave you with one final thought. We've talked a lot about how ownership solves problems. It seems like a magic bullet.
But there is a lingering problem.
Yeah.
There are things in our world that are, by their very nature, almost impossible to own.
Exactly. We're going back to the tragedy of the commons. If ownership drives care, what happens to the parts of our world that you can't fence off?
Think about the deep ocean, the atmosphere, the global climate. There are no property deeds for the stratosphere.
So we are facing the moldy cheese problem, but on a planetary scale. And the stakes are a lot higher than a bad smell in the break room.
That is the ultimate challenge. We know the mechanism that works ownership. But how do we apply that psychology to the global commons?
Can we create property rights for the air? Can we trick our brains into feeling that same sense of this is mine for something we share with 8 billion other people?
Or do we need a totally new operating system for these specific problems? It raises a vital question about the limits of these models.
Something to mull over next time you're cleaning out your own fridge, or quietly ignoring the one at work. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.